If you're going to pay a company to do any sort of marketing, right, and then you're not doing these basic follow-ups, you are just lighting money on fire.
AltaVista, the highest view in contractor marketing.
If you're not listening to The Angle, you will surely fall behind.
Are you going to exist in your space, or are you going to dominate?
Trust the process.
Are you planning for today or adapting for the future?
This is the AltaVista Angle. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Angle. We are AltaVista Strategic Partners, here to talk about what's going on in the sales marketing universe. Today we have just the four partners of AltaVista: Brian Nichols, Brian Dunkel, Managing Partner Ray McLaughlin. Let's start out with a quick update on what we call the state of the contractor economy, the economy as a whole, but we'll get going with something like that. So Ray, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it. Again, I think Dunkel said it on the last podcast. He's not an economist. I'm going to reiterate, I'm not an economist either. But again, I continue to monitor the numbers as I always do. And, I never want to be negative because I'm very positive about business. And I think that even in a struggling economy, there's going to be winners. But we can't ignore the numbers, and the numbers are real. So I actually took a screenshot of the non-farm payrolls report, which has been revised. And I think there was a major revision to the report. And typically in an expanding economy, you're looking at anywhere from 100 and say 50, 120, 150 on the bottom, maybe 250, 270, really strong, good numbers. Really booming economies, you see 350,000 jobs a month. Not typically sustainable, but those are heavy growth years, or growth months rather. So let's look at the December numbers were 323. Last December, 323. Now we were seeing a slowdown, and I think we mentioned it late last year, as early as August. AltaVista was starting to see it already, and we talked about it in our October meeting. January, 111, and I'll just read them out from here: 102, 120. 150, May 19,000, June minus 13,000, July 79,000, and August 22,000. Now those are major revisions, and that's been restated. Honestly, I think it's one of the more concerning things I've seen. Is AI affecting job growth? Possibly. Are people not hiring because of tariffs? 100%. And we haven't seen really the impact of tariffs, but I can tell you, as somebody who buys merchandise and product, inventories are building. Quick story. I looked at a boat, don't want a new boat. They're trying to sell me the boat. And I noticed that the delta between my boat and the new boat was really high. And I said, is there a tariff on your boat? And there is. There's a 10% tariff on that boat. So I walked away, because I'm not going to eat, I'm eating that money, and it's a big number, right? You're buying a boat, that tariff, you're going to eat that money on the backside. The inventories are growing. So we know that's a fact. Additionally, in our customer base, we talk about our base because we have so many clients, but we talk about the smaller clients, the weaker clients. They're getting weaker. They're struggling. They're having cash flow issues, especially if they have a more residential business. And I know that we've had some other stories, Aaron. I know you had one recently too on the residential side.
Yeah, it was a great analogy that I love to hear. And it was from someone who's a very large, long-standing contractor in their space, a regional player, very well known. And we asked how the residential business is. And I love this. They said, have you ever squeezed water from a rock? And so that, to me, oh yeah, it doesn't sound too great when you hear that commentary. Now, interestingly, though, they did say their commercial business is continuing to stay busy and active, and they're seeing the commercial side is moving along well, but they said the residential side been very challenged lately.
Do you know their split revenue on commercial resi?
I don't off the top of my head. If I had to give a guess, I'd say 75-25, maybe 70-30 on the residential, 70% residential, 30% commercial.
Right. And just to reiterate, this is a long-standing AltaVista client, 12 years. This is a legit business. I mean, this is a business doing, maybe 40 million. And, again, they've got scale, and they've got scale on both sides. They've got scale on resi, they've got scale on advertising, they've got scale on the commercial side. They're very integrated into their marketing plans, and they're saying that their resi business is dead. And I've heard that from multiple clients. It's definitely more concerning on the residential side. And again, on the commercial side, I think last episode we said we're firming up, but we're firming up to a level that is below COVID. And so when we look at our numbers, we're comparing our numbers more to 19, and we're probably in line with 19, which we view that as a positive. But if you're used to the numbers that we've seen in 21, 22, 23, and parts 24, it's an adjustment. And I've told clients, this is the reality. We can't get, what was the expression? Water from
Squeezing water from a rock.
Okay, so we're not squeezing water from a rock. I know we've used the expression at AltaVista, we can't fabricate demand. I know clients love when we say that, so we don't even say it anymore. But we can't fabricate demand. And what I can do is tell you that our program is a touch in your process, and that touch is going to produce a quality opportunity, and that it's just a piece of the whole pie, right? It's not that one email that's going to just make it successful. It's going to be just a part of the whole program.
Yeah, absolutely. And an interesting one too, just economically from that same customer, one of the things they talked about and acknowledged was something that they called project pull ahead, which was a lot of work and things were done, whether they were maintenance tasks, residential, commercial, a lot of upgrades and things were done in, we'll say 21, 22, 23, and they were, in their words, pulled ahead, right? In, timeline wise, something that, hey, we might have pushed it off till 25, but economy's on fire. We have cash in the bank. Rates are good. Let's do it in 22 or 23 when we normally might have waited 2 more years. So they also acknowledged that, where everyone's kind of growing and everything's on fire. And I thought that was another interesting general commentary that I also very much agree with, right? Especially on the residential side. A ton of people who wanted to do a remodel of this or that. You probably know fewer today, unless you're Brian Dunkel, read it his kitchen. Anyway,
one thing, let me interject too, is I'm obviously still connected very closely with probably the largest advertiser in the state of Maryland right now for home services, and they're doing well. And he's been in denial about the economy slowing down. They're growing. I mean, they're growing 30% a year, but their ad budget's $2.5 million. And they're stepping on the pedal right now. They're not taking their foot off. So they're expanding territory. They're stepping on the pedal. But when I talked to him last week, he said, all right, I'll acknowledge you're right, because my subs are starving. Yeah. My subs are banging my door down for work. Yeah. So again, he's 100% residential. So again, it's there. And look, the Fed, we talked about the Fed lowering rates. They did it. We said that on the last episode. It was really clear they had to do it. The one thing I would watch is making sure the long rate cooperates, because the Fed only controls short rates. Make sure the long rate cooperates. If the long rate doesn't cooperate, come down, there's going to be a lot of debt out there that can't get refinanced. And I think we've even seen that again with our landlord. Won't name names, but we wanted to redo our lease. We were going to take over some space in the building. There's not many people taking more space, but we were. And the landlord could not get financing for the tenant fit out work. And the reason is the note's callable. And I think the call time is about 1.5 years out. And the bank said, we won't give you any more credit. Basically, they're telling him, we're going to call your note in 1.5 years. And if you look at office, right, everyone thought the bottom for office would be 21, but the bottom for office is now, because these leases have run off. You're not seeing a lot of lease activity currently. So, you're dealing with that in the economy, and office is a pretty big percentage of commercial real estate. And so we need a recovery there too. And that's going to take some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, anything on the contractor economy or I know you're not an economist, Brian Dunkel, Nichols. I don't know if you picked up a econ degree somewhere in the last couple of weeks. You guys got anything before we dive into some other stuff today?
What I was going to say, and I don't want to beat a dead horse because we did talk about it last week, but we talk about, sometimes the weak players, right? And then to your point, Ray, that large agency who's putting the pedal down, opportunity for people that have money, that have cash, the bigger players, right? So again, maybe that's not going to be everybody, but Ray, you say it all the time. There's opportunity, in the down times. There's opportunity to maybe acquire a company, maybe to expand service, right? If you have the cash flow. So that's just where I think about it, as kind of a glass half full.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
the other kind of side too is if you are primarily resi, it could present an opportunity for you to, get more into that commercial space, especially kind of as the weaker people start to kind of weed out. So again, it's just in these times it does present an opportunity as long as you have the right mindset and the right goals set in place.
Yeah, that makes me think like making sure you're valuing every opportunity conversation. And this is actually going to be a really good kind of off the cuff segue. I'll give myself some props here. We wanted to talk today about sales marketing, back to basics, fundamentals. Ray always calls it blocking and tackling, right? And so, to what Brian Nichols just said there, like, oh, the opportunity, maybe you look at this or you look at that. And just making sure that when we're getting an opportunity to talk to someone about what we do, right, that we're doing all these little fundamentals, the basic blocking and tackling correctly, right? And that's what we did. We have an outline for this. It's what we wanted to talk about today. And, it's a good segue, right? Because we talk about that opportunity. Maybe you are a residential contractor and someone who owns a local building calls you. How are you handling that phone call? Maybe you're a commercial and someone calls you and you're not really sure what you want to do, right? I think it's a really good segue to say, hey, in a tougher situation, one, valuing all of those, but then two, kind of making sure we're doing all the little things correctly. Ray, I know you listened to a phone call or heard a recording recently from somebody that was kind of the catalyst for this kind of blocking, tackling conversation. Why don't you kind of share that with everybody?
Yeah, it's funny because I touted myself as being 90-10 working on the business versus in the business. And I find myself listening to phone recordings of our customers. So I might need to adjust. My ratios there. But yeah, we had an opportunity come in. It was with a pharmaceutical company. It was a fantastic opportunity. It was a fantastic facility. And just so everybody knows, I mean, I look at opportunities. I'm doing Google Earth. I'm looking at images of the properties that we're sending our clients to because I'm super proud when we can produce an opportunity in a 2 million square foot pharmaceutical manufacturing plant that our customers didn't even know existed. And that's where this stems from. It happened to be an inbound call. We actually couldn't track the email because the name was kind of jumbled into the voicemail or into the recording rather. And so the email was invalid and I happened to look at it. I'm like, that's a shame. We sent our team to go look for it. And I saw there was a call. So I listened to the call and the woman who answered the phone did a great job. She's super polite. And then I noticed she wasn't doing such a great job because she never got the caller's name. Again, super polite. How can I help you? What are your needs? She never got the caller's name. He said it, but you couldn't articulate it. She never got his phone number. She never got his phone number. She never got an email address from him. And she simply handed the sales rep's phone number or gave him the sales rep's phone number and said, here, why don't you give Stan a call? And I literally hung up the phone and I was appalled. I was blown away. That is not the way to handle it. And when times get tough, you have to embrace that, especially the first phone call, because again, that is the first touch. And if you don't embrace that, your closing ratios are going down. End of story. He may have never even called the sales rep. And then when the sales rep says, wow, that was at this, 2 million square foot plant. What's his name? I don't know his name because I'm telling you, we listened to recording 50 times. We have a version of the name. I think it's catastrophic. And I think it relates to another call I had last week. And they closed 1 out of 64 AltaVista opportunities. And, look, I call a spade, and he didn't like my conversation. I said, that's a you problem. And if you don't know that's a you problem and not an AltaVista problem, then you're in the wrong business. If you're closing 1 out of 64, you're in the wrong business. You do not know what you're doing. Sorry. And I'd have started evaluating your process from the minute that call comes in or that email comes in, and then how do you handle it? And just, we talked about putting AI into your business. Well, don't even think about AI until you've got a really tight process that's going to increase your closing ratio, because how you handle that first call will increase your closing ratio.
Yeah, I have a really good one on this. I've worked with residential customers before who don't want to do repairs. Roof repairs specifically was one that would commonly come up. And we would listen to calls, and they would call in and they would say, "Hi, I'm calling. I need a repair at my roof." And they would say, "I'm sorry, we don't do repairs. We don't give quotes for repairs. Call this handyman." And we worked with them to say, well, why don't you shift this to understand what they're calling about? How old is, thank you for calling us today. Before we decide to talk about repairs, how long have you lived in your home? Do you know how old your roof is? We moved in last week, and the neighbors, it's brand new construction. The neighbor's kid threw a football and knocked 2 shingles off. Hey, I'm not the guy for that. Call the handyman. We lived here for 30 years. We've never put a roof on. We found 2 shingles in the yard. Well, guess what? 2 shingles in the yard in both scenarios. One of them absolutely needs a new roof and could be sold a new roof. The other probably just needs a handyman to go nail 2 shingles down. But just, evaluating what they're doing, making sure we're getting it correctly, doing it politely, and kind of digging in and asking those questions, are just so crucially important to, again, being successful. Brian Dunkel,
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say something.
No, and I'm just kind of piggybacking on the basic blocking and tackling, right? You can only make a first impression once, right? So if the first impression is someone at maybe a call center or someone at a front desk giving you another barrier to entry, hey, call so-and-so, you're going to lose that, right? You're going to lose that opportunity. And Aaron, I've heard you say this, you're just lighting money on fire because you're paying for marketing. You're paying for opportunities to come into your business, right? And it's no different than not having a great optimized website with a form fill as soon as you get to the homepage, right? You're just making that prospect, that client work, right, to contact you, right? Where it should obviously be the opposite way. So crucially important stuff that, again, I think some of us take it for granted, because for a lot of us at AltaVista, that's second nature. But this is stuff that's so critically important. If you're going to grow your business, especially to Ray's point, in these lean times, you have to go above and beyond, right? And if you're just going to follow a simple process, hey, I'm going to lob 1 phone call, 1 email, cross my fingers, that's not a good process, right?
Yeah, I want to get back to the this phone call, right? And I'm going to get granular on it because we were writing down some notes beforehand. And if someone calls your business, and if that needs to go, if I answer the phone and it needs to be assigned to Ray or Brian, to me, the core things that should be asked: their name with proper spelling, their company, their email. I always say, what's your best mobile phone number? I always say mobile, so that they're inclined to give you their mobile versus their work. You get what you ask for. If you say phone number, maybe they give you their office, but I want the mobile. I always say that. I would ask for, their address. Can you tell me about what you need? Is there anything else we should know? And Brian Dunkel, you kind of said this, and I would, if there's more that should kind of go into that, I'd love to hear it. Brian Dunkel, you said this one at the before we started recording. I would be like, hey, Ray, we're going to give your information to Brian Nichols. He's going to call you. I'm also going to send an email right now to you and copy Brian on there to get that going. So you've now got all their information. You've sent this, you've sent it to Brian, and you're making it, I think, to Brian Dunkel's point, you're just making it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if one other thing too, right? If you're a business owner or if you're a sales rep, you might not always be the one answering the main line, right? Whether it's the main office line or whatever it is. So to make sure, it's incredibly important to make sure that whoever is answering that phone, whoever you brought in to be that kind of first person, that first touch when your phone rings, it is critically important to make sure they are trained up not just on sounding good on the phone and speaking well and speaking clearly and speaking direct, but collecting that information. Without that information, if there is a break in the call, or if there is a period of time that elapses, you need that information to re-engage and reignite that conversation.
100%.
Ray, you got anything?
Well, it's funny because, I mean, if you really want to take it to the next level, why isn't that email put right into your outbound database, right? And you're sending a monthly touch to every single person that you've engaged with, whether you've won the business or not. And I think, what we do is a really broad reach out. I explained this to a client the other day. We talk about a salesperson's fishing with a spear. They go out, they attack the fish they want, right? And they get that fish, and it's a beautiful fish. We go out and we take a net, and we bring in some beautiful fish, and we bring some fish that aren't so beautiful. We might bring in a tire here and there, right? I mean, that happens once in a while, but that's what marketers do. And so, but once we bring in that fantastic opportunity, even if you don't get into the RFP, or you don't get into the bid, or you couldn't get them on the phone, why are you giving up? It makes no sense. We can't get in touch with these people. I'm sorry. I can. Here's my process. This is what I used to do. If I lost, and I gave my son this advice, I told you guys this, my son started cold calling. He's doing great, by the way. He lost his first deal. He's like, the guy was great. He was really interested, but it just wasn't the right timing. And I said, send him a thank you note. He goes, for what? And I go, for his time. Send him a thank you note, thanking him for his time, and allowing to learn more about his business and nothing else. And this is where salespeople make a huge mistake. They'll say something like, oh, maybe we can connect later, or we can do some future business together. No, just send a thank you. How many people are doing that today? Zero. Because when I was go ahead.
Brian Dunkel, there is one. Brian Dunkel is a big thank you guy, right? So
I
won't let you say zero. I'll get his back because I see him writing the thank you notes. So we'll say at least one person in America.
I'll give you that one. And the other thing we talked about with a client the other day, just you didn't get in, the name, the address. He's the right contact. He or she is the right contact. Federal Express your presentation deck with something, and then follow up, and then drop them into your monthly reach out emails where you're still touching them. I mean, we're still touching them for you for sure. But then have your salespeople run a process. And we have a client that's doing just that. And they're doing incredibly well. I don't know, Aaron, if you have something.
Yeah, we were talking with that customer, again, a large customer. They know their space. They're a leader in their space. They've got tuned up people. They consider themselves a sales organization. The sales rep who we were talking to, he goes, I'll call them 3 times. I email them 3 times. I'll text them 3 times. I do that in a fairly short order from when I get the first, hey, I want to call, or I want to talk to you. He goes, if they don't hear from me on that kind of thing, maybe I'm a little challenged. He goes, I then put them into my outreach that I do the first week of every month to all of my unknown, ghosted, out of touch kind of things. And he goes, I send a bulk email to all of them. Hey, it's me. I'm checking in. If you need something this month, let me know. Keep it moving along. The multiple reps at this organization are doing this. One of the ones who started it has grown a fairly small geographic market to over, I think, $5 million a year in sales. One rep, 5 million. And again, he's not in New York City. So, there's success in process, little things, fundamentals. I think it goes back to that blocking and tackling, right? It was pretty impressive to hear that. And it's like, well, yeah, that guy's being successful. And what I also thought was great was how other people in the org were adopting the best practice of something that was working for somebody else.
That's if you're not doing that right now, and we do it, right? We've taken what Brian's done and what Aaron's done, and we've wrapped it into a best practice for our people. And we could still continue to evolve that every day.
Oh yeah.
That's never gonna change. Like if Joey, the new sales guy, comes up with something that's really smart and it's working, you have to reinvent your process again. And again, who's looking at the process? Are you listening to some of your outbound phone calls?
Yeah.
No. I mean, we did it. We've done it as an organization. Again, we record everything. We tell our employees to record everything because we need to. But again, when we listen to these phone calls, sometimes we're shocked at how good an employee really is. And then we're shocked at how poor an employee really is. And I mean, we've had it on our side. I think we run a great organization, but so again, are you listening to these calls? And I don't look at it as a violation of privacy. I look at it as, hey, we're going to record them. We're going to tell you we're going to record them, and you're going to make your organization better.
It's training. It's basic training,
100%
right? We
training.
all need to do role plays. We all need a refresher on this. We all need to work on closing. I'm just talking sales, objection handling, all little things that you might think you don't need to do them, but there's still benefit in you. Oh, I haven't heard that objection before, and I've been selling for AltaVista since 2012. And you
Yeah.
hear something for the first time, and you're like, oh, you know what? I haven't heard that one before. So it still comes about, right? And so I think everyone on that training standpoint is, that's a really important point.
I wanted to chime in real quick because I think a lot of what we're talking about too is just kind of shifting a focus from the short term to the long term. And I think a lot of sales reps, which again, I completely get it, right? You have to hit a number, you have goals, et cetera, et cetera. You want the close, right? But at a certain level, you got to think long term, right? Even if it's a no today, it could be a yes in 3 months. It could be a yes in 6 months. It could be a yes in 3 years. The whole thing is knowing who your client is, who the right prospect is, right? More importantly, who you don't want to work with as well, right? Making sure you have those touch points like we've talked about. Again, FedEx packages, meetings, phone calls, emails, text messages, but just never taking that no as a long-term no, especially if it's the right client. And to Ray's point, a simple thank you card, a simple touch point, it goes a long way because there's not a lot of people doing that. So I think sometimes you do need to shift the focus and make sure you're looking long-term, following the right process.
Yeah, we have a sales rep that, was pursuing a prospect in Wisconsin. Good prospect. I had spoken with them, and they kind of rescheduled, moved it around. They seemed very engaged and were very responsive. And then they just kind of were like, hey, we got to put this on the table until January. This happens, it happens, right? And he was discouraged, but I said to him, well, this is how you have a blowout in January. This is how you have the best January of your career, because if you stay on top of them and you remind yourself and you're in front of them and you're disciplined, and I go, look, make a reminder to email him in November, possibly December, just reminding him about talking in January, right?
Exactly.
Short-sighted, frustrated because I wanted to get this new client. I wanted to get this deal. It's right here. It's right now. But, if you're consistent, I think to your point, Brian Dunkel, in the long run, all of a sudden you go 3 times goal in January because these things kind of just build in your pipeline. So,
well, especially in the commercial
go,
space.
Nicholas, go ahead.
Yep, especially in the commercial space, Brian kind of uses this phrase really. So it's not the if, it's the when the need will arise. So if something like that goes a little bit stale, just understanding, again, long versus short, where that need will arise, whether it's at that same property, maybe the plant manager, the property manager, the facility manager manages multiple properties. So you're going to have that need arise again. It's staying consistent, not getting discouraged, and making sure that your process is consistent touch points, just like we always kind of preach.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think we'll get back to that. But before I forget this one, it was really relevant. Again, I'll reference my son. He's in 3 weeks. He has 10 meetings, and so he goes to my wife once in a while, the English teacher, for sales advice. And so we have a little committee over here at the McLaughlin household, and he wasn't home from work yet, and my wife says, "Well, I hope he gets his first deal really soon." And I go, "I hope he doesn't." And she's like, "Well, what are you hating on my kid for?" And I said, "If he gets his first deal, he's going to think it's too easy. He's good. He has 10 leads, right? So he has 10 good leads, right? Well, maybe we get 3 or 4 closes out of that. That'd be fantastic for, but let's let him come slowly, because if you get them too easy, he's going to forget how the process works. And I think something that Dunkel said about Nick Saban, which I had never heard that quote before, is results are bullshit. Trust the process. And as an early sales rep, I went into a situation at Xerox where I got a lot of warm leads from the guy who was leaving. And I killed, like, the first month, I destroyed everybody. His name was Bill. I'll come up with his name. Bill, it started with a K. I love this guy. But he gave me all these leads, and I just went out and met these people, and I destroyed it. I mean, I closed like 9 deals. You're supposed to close 4, but honestly, none of them were mine. And it taught me kind of the wrong lesson. And again, I was a hard working sales guy, but the first couple months, I was like, this is easy. Then when those went away, I'm like, wow, I really have to build this pipeline up. And so again, don't worry about the closes each month. Look at the pipeline. Look at the health of the pipeline. Be realistic with the pipeline. Are you evaluating your pipeline? Well, are you putting true probabilities on that pipeline? Are you killing deals when they're dead? And when you kill a deal, are you following up with that to potentially keep that door open? And again, question, are you doing these things? And if my son were to send that thank you note, what's the probability of close going to do when he reaches back out in January? It's going higher. And so if you look at a closing ratio and people say, well, it's so funny. I've heard I close 95%. I close, give me a break. You know what? If you go into a cold scenario where that client doesn't know you, they've never heard of you, they've never heard of your business, you get a meeting with them and you close 30%, I think you're being efficient. If you're 25, 20, probably acceptable. You get to 10 and anything below 10, you just got to ratchet that up a little bit. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I think you can close at a much higher rate than that if you really refine your process and you do all these things. What does an incremental increase in closing ratio across 8 salespeople, and one of our clients has 60 salespeople, by the way. Talked to him the other day. Didn't know he had 60, by the way. 60. What if we could improve his closing ratios by 5%? He doesn't need that many new touches because he's just going to grow organically. So you have to embrace this just as improving your closing ratios. Better process, improving your closing ratios, you're running a better business too. If that first touch is that first phone call is really good, what's that make your organization look like? If it's really bad, your closing ratio may have dropped exponentially, right? If that first touch was, yeah, I don't really have time for this. Sorry, let me give you the number. I'm working from home today. And by the way, that she did say she was working from home that day. And I don't know why that was even in the conversation, because that's that instant negative. Did the closing ratio go up or did the closing ratio go down? It went down. It's end of story. And when a client tells me I can't reach out to these people, these are the reasons why. And the reasons are the salespeople aren't following through. They're not walking them through this journey or this experience. What does the client experience look like in your organization? Look at it. Be honest with yourself. I've looked at it with our business, and I mean, I listened to one of our phone calls a month ago from a 6-month, someone who's been gone for 6 months, and I was appalled at what they said. I actually sent that to you guys. And, it was before we had our VP of sales and we kind of restructured. But, again, you've got to listen to these calls. You got to see what the client's hearing or the prospect's hearing.
Yeah. It makes me think of a funny story, actually. Brian Dunkel, I think this was someone that you brought in as a customer at AltaVista. It was a long time ago. And he called up like 3 months in, and we were recording his calls, and he goes, "Hey, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I just fired my office manager of 3 years because no matter what, I know she's probably cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars in business with how rude she is on the phone to these people." Do you remember that, Brian? The guy who fired his office manager or whoever was answering the phones for him?
I vaguely remember, but yes.
It's and I feel bad that this person lost their job. So I'm not trying to make light of that, but it was just I mean, this guy goes, whether this works or not, and we work together. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
He literally goes, I'm going to get my money's worth because I just learned this about this person because I was never even thinking to do this. I never knew what she was like on the phone with people, which I just thought
I remember that. I remember
really
that too.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Story. I have one that we haven't really talked about through all this because we've talked about like follow up and getting them into here and making a note. You know, on the lead intake, the phone call side, Brian Nichols, you mentioned that person has to be really good at doing their job. CRM, right? We need to get that information at that phone call into a platform as soon as possible. Ray, you made the point. Why are we talking AI if you're not doing the blocking and tackling of being great on the phone? We got to figure that out first, right? And I just think that at that job and that first point of information, so crucial to get that information permanently housed somewhere that, you know, I'd rather you get it in there and get their address wrong because we can go figure that out downstream than not get it in there and get the address right. You know what I mean? I just think it's so crucially important and something we didn't really hit on very much. Anyone got any comments on that?
Let me interject because I think this is, we talk. I wanted to avoid the AI convo. It's, the first couple episodes, it was like, let's avoid AI. And then we started getting a lot of requests for, hey, what are you using AI for? So we covered that last week. And I just want to reiterate to clients, if you can't get the blocking and tackling right, and you're trying to invest in AI, you're wasting your money. Right. Okay. And if you're using your CRM as a contact manager, throw it away because Outlook gives you that for free. The CRM is not a contact manager. It's a robust tool in which you can assign task, follow-up process. When a follow-up's not made, the sales manager gets pinged. Joey didn't follow up with Billy and it's a missed opportunity and the sales manager gets a note saying he missed his task. Fully integrating the technology that's really accessible. You could probably get a free CRM today. I mean, I don't even know the answer. We use Salesforce and we love Salesforce. It's a great product, but there's a lot of good ones out there. And again, each organization could differ. But if you're not using your CRM, if you're not integrating with your marketing, right? Like it's an integration tool. And so, yeah, if you're not doing the blocking and tackling and you don't have a great, robust sales process and you're not managing that digitally, you're not investing in AI. It makes absolutely no sense because let me also say, if you have this robust platform, you can utilize Salesforce's AI. And that's what we just did because we utilize Salesforce it's really our assembly line for our entire business for 75 employees. Salesforce was able to come in and automate through our system 30% of our work on our account management side. And so if we weren't in Salesforce or we weren't using a unified system, we couldn't have done that. And we would have had to hire our own implementers or developers to do this. And because we're on the Salesforce network, and again, it's working, guys, it's working well, but we haven't unleashed it completely. So obviously there will be some hiccups, but again, basic blocking and tackling, investing in the tech stack, getting some type of CRM that's going to help you manage these relationships at scale, not in a spreadsheet, because again, that's not unified. The sales manager can't see it. The VP of sales can't see it. I have dashboards. You know how many dashboards I actually have, guys? I might have 40 dashboards. I can pull up a customer service dashboard. I can pull up a finance dashboard. I can pull up a pipeline dashboard. It's insane, the information at my fingertips. I can do it on my phone too. It makes my life so much easier because on a Saturday when I'm working, I just go right to the dashboard. Here it is.
Yeah.
Simple.
Dunkel, you said this at the beginning, again, when we huddled before we started recording. You mentioned CRM discipline, which I heard for the first time from you right there. I thought it was a little light bulb went off, right? Like, oh, that's a pretty compelling comment. And, I think to a client that we had, probably the largest by revenue customer we've ever worked with. We had a very successful campaign going. At the end of the day, they basically said, we cannot determine the results and outcomes of this because we don't know, because our reps in the field are not inputting information. And, we got them in touch with someone who owns the most industrial property in South Florida, the head of the entire thing. And he goes, I want to talk to you about how you could help me across 35 million square feet of industrial space. They do not know that that person was ever even followed up with because it was not in their CRM.
Yeah.
So if you talk about a lack of CRM discipline, I think that's an extreme outlier, right? But talk about that CRM discipline, because I thought it was a great term and something that everybody needs as a sales org. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I wish that was the only client that
yeah, no doubt.
that was an anecdote for, but because it happens all the time where it's like, hey, I think things are going well, but hard to say because we don't have a CRM. I mean, that's the thing too, the basic blocking and tackling. A lot of our clients don't have a CRM, right? So then next step, you have a CRM. The CRM is only as good as the data that's inputted, right? And to Ray's point, it's not just about contact information. It is about scheduling follow-up tasks. It's about, you can, if you have a robust CRM like Salesforce, you can automate emails. I mean, there's just so many things. But again, if you're not utilizing it, if you're not teaching or training your sales team to utilize it, to take notes, to use it to its full capabilities, you're losing, right? And again, we've talked about this all the time. If you are going to pay a company, whether it's AltaVista or someone else, obviously it should be AltaVista, but if you're going to pay a company to do any sort of marketing, right, and then you're not doing these basic follow-ups, you are just lighting money on fire, or you're flushing money down the toilet, right? And these are just very simple things that when you talk about increasing a close percentage by 1%, by 2%, by 3%, by just doing the basics, right? So again, it's the CRM discipline was just something that I think about because I try to be very diligent on follow-up tasks, on notes, right? Because again, to Ray's point, if it's on an Excel sheet, it's not integrated with the organization, right? And anything can be accessible from a phone, from from your desktop, right? And the VP of sales, the account manager, the managing partner of the company can see that in real time. Critically important.
Yeah, I even think the notes is a good one too, right? The call notes, the outcomes. I like the future tasks and all those things. I go as simple as like we're in the end of September, but in the summertime as a salesperson, you get a lot of I'm going on vacation, I've got this, I've got that. As simple as I spoke to Susie on July 1st. She said she was going out of town. Well, ask her where she was going. I'm going here. Call me in 2 weeks. When you call her in 2 weeks, if you have that note that says she went to Ocean City, Maryland, right? Well, you can just say, how was Ocean City? Like, you talk rapport building and getting to know people and like all those little notes and all those little details, right? I talk a lot of the times with our sales guys. If you get those really good details of like, hey, I'm an electrician, I love this type of work. In your follow-up, if you reference a case study or another example of where we helped a customer, an AltaVista client, gain that type of account or something, those granular details do start to matter. And they're all things that would go kind of into those notes and activity reports that if you're high volume and you got a lot going on, you don't remember.
Yeah.
And like people will say, oh, I remember all that. And I know what my customer, no, you don't.
No.
Right. So I just think, again, that CRM discipline was a good one. Ray,
Well,
you want to say something?
You're not going to, first of all, did Susie ride the bus when she was in Ocean City?
100%.
Oh, I was just checking. Yeah. I know that's a big thing for the Hochul family.
You love the bus.
Yeah. No, but yes. So I totally lost my train of thought, by the way. Sorry.
No, yeah, because that's, if you're listening and you've never experienced the Ocean City, Maryland public transit system, everyone should do it one time in their life. I'll put it up there with, Super Bowl. I don't know what else you can. Running with the Bulls in Pamplona, Spain might be a more apt level of risk and danger. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a crowded bus. I've taken, trust me, when I was on the beach patrol there, I had to take that bus once in a while. It's a crowded bus.
It's a real bus. It's the real deal.
Unruly. It's unruly too. But anyway,
Nichols, were you going to say something? We'll let Ray gather his thoughts here.
You gave an example earlier, Aaron, about the the rep in the smaller market that was doing some things to be successful.
Yeah.
And everyone else within the organization modeled themselves after that. So again, it's as you're inputting this information into the CRM down, every single rep needs to be doing this because it's the things that are going to make you successful. The more reps you have doing this kind of standard process of data input, note input, follow up, the more you do, the better. And the more people see a successful rep doing these, the more, the more they can model themselves after that. And then it's just exponential.
All right. So I figured it out. Sorry. Getting old, but my recall's not too bad. Um, so yeah. So one of the things that we want to do at AltaVista is we want to streamline this for you. And, we had a client sign up for a service the other day and they wasted $15,000 a month. And I'm like, just call us. Like, we know every service. We know every CRM. There's no data tool out there that we haven't tried, by the way. And again, with Kendall, I know she was on last week. We've got James on our database side. We've got Kendall. We've got so many resources on the CRM side we can help. And we can also share our CRM with our clients. So we really want to push that where we can share a piece of our CRM if you don't have one, and we can give you an integrated tool where you can see the opportunities and we can communicate. A lot of our clients don't communicate the closes to us, and we're challenged with that because there's sort of this, like, I'm not going to say lack of trust, but I think it's like they don't want us to know like they closed $1 million job. But it's really important that we get on the same page and we integrate and we work together. I had this conversation with a client. I said, we're not a vendor. We are not a vendor. We are a partner. And we're not here to sell you anything. We're going to make your business better. You can cut your fee. You can change your services. You can eliminate something. You can add more. You do whatever you want. You can add more to your ad budget. Like, your answer, Ray, is you add more to your ad budget. Well, that doesn't go to AltaVista. That goes to Google or Facebook or wherever you're advertising. I always say, if you don't like it, buy Google stock and buy a lot of it and just keep running your ads because it's actually doubled in the last 7 months. Google, I mean, pretty boring company, right? But they've doubled. So again, talking to maybe more the trust factor of AltaVista. So getting that information to sync with, say, our CRM, we can do that. We'd much rather see you get your own fully integrated CRM, but we could do that for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we love to hear about the wins, but hearing about the challenges on that front too are also really important to us, because if, you're not having a great connection rate, or you're not seeing it going into your CRM, or you're not listening to the phone calls, right? Like, again, things that we can help with. We have a longtime customer. We recently set up some automatic flows so that when we send them any piece of information, it moves automatically into their CRM. We have a few customers that have things, more than a few. We have a lot of customers that have this kind of things in place. But, they can now just put out a report to the dashboard comment, Ray, of here's what I bid, here's what's open, here's what's closed. And for them, it's become an automated part of their platform, right? And it gives us insight into, as a team, as a partnership, well, this was really working here, or that, you know what I mean? And it gives you more insight into what we can do to improve, what we can do to close more, what we can add to a campaign, how can we reach a new audience, right? It's just more data. There's a popular buzzword, right? But it's just more data and information to make a really good choice. So I do think that's a really big one, right? And it's something that we would love to help more people with.
Yeah, I think, look, I talked to a buddy of mine who is a 30-year ad agency. We had lunch last Friday. And, I said, you ever have to like tell your clients the way it is? And he's like, all the time. And I look at it as like, look at a lawyer. Do you want your lawyer to just agree with you? No. You want your lawyer to tell you the way it's going to be. You want your accountant to just agree with you. No. So do you really want your marketing company to just agree with you? No. You want us to be honest and voice our opinions, and we need to do that. And if we say, hey, your closing ratio is too low, it's not an insult, but we've got to work together to make that closing ratio better. There's just a trust factor in our relationship with our clients that I think is really critically important, because we're giving you advice. We're your advisor, and there's certain things I'm steadfast on. If someone says I want to cut reviews, I want to explode, because like you're not listening to us. Where AI is finding you is through reviews. Oh, SEO is dead. I don't want to do it anymore. You're wrong. You're going to be irrelevant in 5 years. So again, these are all parts of the integration of the plan, right? It's the integration of that sales and marketing plan, which I do think is a tough thing for our clients to digest, because most of our clients are sales organizations and they believe that their salespeople are gonna get the win. But if we can get them to think about the integration of the plan and how each piece is a touch. And I told this client, if you're looking at a opportunity, is what we call it, you call it a lead, and that you didn't close the lead, I told them you're looking at it the wrong way. Our email was just a touch. And whether it was the first touch or the second touch or the fifth touch or the 12th touch to the right prospect, and you didn't get the job and you think it's over today, you're wrong. You have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
You have no idea what you're doing. It's just a touch. You lost today, but you have to have a process to finish that up.
That
Another
customer,
one,
Ray, made a
yeah,
really good point I want to share in that same token about it's a touch, it's a lost opportunity. One of the opportunities that they looked at was for a type of service that they have shied away from for, call it, the last 10 years. And they kind of finally, as a group, made the decision to look at this particular type of service. And they go, we looked at it, we explored it, we understood it, we figured out how we can provide this service. We bid it. It was a $1 million plus project that they put the bid on, and they lost it. And their sales director goes, that was a huge thing for our organization to become open-minded to doing this type of work, that I just see us getting in front of that person, bidding this, and digesting that we can do this moving forward as a massive win. Because when we start to win a couple of these, we can add $8 to $10 million a year in sales if we start to do this type of work. So that is a mindset that when I heard that, I said, I love that mindset, right? They're just looking at everything as an opportunity, right? And
yeah,
everything as a touch, and looking at it, how is it all helping build me and move me forward, right? So I just wanted to, it was right in line with what you were talking about.
yeah. Let me tell you what I hear. And what I hear is going to be very self-promotional to AltaVista. I hear that our database produced an opportunity to bid work with a Fortune 500 company for $1 million off of a $1,500 email campaign on a monthly basis. And you're trying to compute the ROI on that. I think we're going to have a different if you and I get on the phone together, we're going to have a different conversation. And if you don't get what I'm telling you, then maybe we shouldn't be doing business together, because your ROI is, what's your client acquisition cost? What's it cost you to get that same opportunity? And you didn't even get it, but I got it for $1,500. Give me a break. That's insane. Yep. That is absolutely. And again, we produce $1 million bid opportunities. Maybe it's not every day, but 5% of our opportunities are six figures and above. It's your job to win it. And if you don't win it, you didn't lose it. You just lost for the time being. And if that's your approach in business, then it's not going to work. That's just a contact. It's a touch. You get the next one. One of my favorite stories is, and again, it's about clients' trust and their relationship, is talk about basic blocking and tackling. What about your data? What are you doing with your data? Your closed, lost data that's sitting in your Excel sheets. You're not even touching it. And our second customer, who's still a client today, he's a great guy. And I told him this 12 years ago. He says, well, I don't trust you with my information. And I said, I'm like, I've been working with you for 12 years now. Like, what do you think I'm going to do with it? And I go, but you're letting it evaporate. He's like, no, I still have it. I go, it's dead.
Yeah.
It's 12 years old. You could have given it to me 12 years ago. I could have put a marketing plan together where we're still touching those closed lost people, just as like one of our clients is doing on a repetitive, consistent basis. And then if the sales rep drops the ball, and they are dropping the ball, end of story. There's really good reps out there. They're not all perfect. They're not doing it perfectly. You use that marketing to create that touch. And that's just the value. And again, are our clients doing that? They're not. That's basic blocking and tackling. And I
You
think,
had a good, I was going to
good.
say, you had a really good point where I don't think a lot of clients know what the cost of a client acquisition is, right? And that's, again, we're talking about building a good sales org. I mean, that's got to be at the top, right?
Yeah.
And that's critical because I know you talk about that all the time. What does it cost you to acquire a client, right? Or what does it cost you to get a meeting? And these are all kind of basic things that, again, I always like to work backwards, right? What's the goal? Work backwards on how to achieve that same thing. What's the cost to acquire a client, right? Then how do I implement a process to get my next client, to get my next 10 clients? So I think that's critically important too, where I don't think a lot of clients do think that way, which again is just another way to, kind of change the lens,
And I
from a sales
go,
perspective.
and I go lifetime value of a client, right? Everything we talk about is we're talking client acquisition. I almost go, call it account acquisition. And I was just in Atlanta. So to everybody down in Georgia that I met with last week, you know, thank you for all these anecdotal quips here. But great meeting, relatively new AltaVista customer. And we're kind of talking about results and outcomes. And they go, oh, this one over here, that very first opportunity you ever generated for me, we went out and closed it. It was a service ticket. It was $600. Well, Ray just said we charge $1,500 a month. So you guys can all, do the basic math on that one. They go on to say they've called us 3 more times. We did a $3,000 repair the second time, $2,000 the third time. The last one they just signed was a $26,000 project. $600 to $31,600 in 5 months. That is an account. That is not a lead. That is not a bid. That is like, I was like, hey, I might need to go get my tripod and camera out to get this film testimonial, right? Come work for AltaVista, because, but seriously, to all these things we talk about of blocking and tackling, heavy lifting, intake, are we doing a good job here? Are we listening to calls? All of these things add up to, well, when you build and get to that, you've acquired that account. The value of that can be who knows what the value of that could be over 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And that's truly how I think you build a great business, right? Is having long-term repeat accounts.
Right. But I'm going to add more to it. How do you expand that account? How do you maximize that? Like that,
sure.
The success of McLaughlin Electric was we would go in, I mean, we were the new guy on the block and everybody's like, well, we don't need you. But the one thing we could do better than anybody is we could get a service truck to your location in an hour and anywhere in Baltimore Metro. And so what we did was we used that to pry the relationship open. And we told the client, look, I know you're using XYZ and they're a good company, but sometimes they can't make a service call. Well, that wasn't me being nice. That was me being strategic. And that's how we pried the door open. But then think about the customer experience. If you give an excellent customer experience, and then what we did on that, and we did give an extra care to those new clients, we had a follow-up process that within 15 minutes of the job being completed, somebody at the office called that new client and said, hey, Mr. Jones, your job at 123 Charles Street is completed. How many electricians in Baltimore would ever do that? The answer is 0. Sorry, it's 0. What's the funniest thing is clients would say, they didn't think we actually did it because they called it in like an hour and a half ago. And, so I had one great story where I had a guy next door to the building and we got it done in like 10 minutes. And I waited an hour to call him because I didn't want to bill him for 10 minutes because that's what he would have said to me. But I told my people, I'm like, well, don't tell him we had someone next door. Be a hero. And when he says, how'd you get it done? We said, that's what we do. Then we create an amazing client experience, and then we expand that relationship with that buyer. And then we take it from there, and then we say, is there anyone else in your organization that could benefit from the services of our company? And then we do it over and over and repeatable and repeatable. And again, how many salespeople are doing that? They're not. I had a conversation in Arizona with a $70 million customer of AltaVista. That's not doing it. And when I was giving that same lecture, I was on audio and I watched everybody writing notes like frantically. I got a call from the CEO afterward. He's like, I want to talk to you about sales. I'll do that for free. I mean, on the high level, we'll do it for free. If you want us to get real granular, obviously we'll have to charge and we'll have to come up with a program. But are you doing that? That's basic blocking and tackling, which the Ravens don't know how to do. And I don't want to bring the Ravens in any conversation, but
Yeah, man.
I'm deflated, man. So anyway,
Yeah, they stink.
They stink. And you know what? You know what?
No, they have a lot of opportunity to improve. They have a lot of areas for improvement. They have a lot of ways to get better.
I'm gonna interject. I know there's a lot of non-Ravens fans, so I don't want to get too focused on the Ravens, but there's not a lot of discipline in the org. And I think culturally it looks like there's some dissension. And I think that leads into what we're going to talk about in the next couple episodes is culture. And how did AltaVista, again, guys, we just made the Inc. 5000 again. We're 9 years on the Inc. 5000. And that's a testament to our people. It's also a testament to our process too, right? Our people and our process. And that's Marcus Lemonis. If you guys ever watch The Prophet, he's really bright. People, process, and product. And that's a real simple way to sum it up. But we also made Baltimore's Fast 50 list. I think we're going to be the top 10. And what's been, I think relatively tougher years, right? I mean, it was really easy right out of COVID. So again, we're implementing these things, and I'm super proud of our organization for where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably a good place to maybe wrap up this episode. Anybody got any kind of closing thoughts or comments or anything?
No, that was a great transition by Ray in terms of feathering in the Ravens' lack of discipline and culture to what we'll talk about on the next episode from a cultural perspective.
Anyone out there listening, make sure you tune in because culture is such an integral part of the success of an organization. And it bleeds down. It starts from the top. It bleeds down to everybody that comes into work for you. So we have customers that are growing and are adding new people. If the culture is not right, it's not going to work. So I'm really looking forward to that next episode.
My closing thought, I'm going to go with a great cultural thing is having discipline. And that's if someone calls your business, get their name, their email, their phone number, their address, ask them what they need, put it in your CRM and send them an email. So Ray, that'll be my closing.
So I think I got a great way to work on culture. So everybody in Maryland knows who Aerotech is. One of the fastest growing companies. The owner of the Ravens actually was one of the founders of the company. And I think culturally, one of the greater businesses I've seen. So for our episode, I'll grab Todd Moore, at least a 9-year president of Aerotech. He'd love to come in and talk culture. So I'll get that set up for us. He's great, man. He was one of the early guys at Aerotech and watched that thing blossom into a $14 billion company. Yeah. Started in the garage in 1985, $14 billion. Pretty staggering stuff. And I'll make that call. Or Caddy, I think I'll have Caddy make that call. No, we'll get him lined up for our next episode. But no, honestly, on the most impactful thing I had in the last couple of weeks is talking to a client about if you're evaluating us month by month, lead by lead, I don't want to do business with you. And if I'm on the phone with the customer, you're going to hear it straight from me. And we're not going to be evaluated month by month, lead by lead. We'll help you. We'll help you get to where you want to be. We're going to help you get to these closing ratios. But you have to embrace marketing as a touch in the sales process. If you're viewing it as a separate item to your sales process, I don't think you're looking at it appropriately. Marketers and salespeople do think differently, but you have to embrace it. I'd also like our clients to embrace the trust factor as times, if they do get tougher here, we have a great lens into what's really going on and we see who's failing. And I can tell you, we have a list of people that are failing and we've relieved clients of their contracts because they can't pay and they're failing. And we're just like, we'll let you out. It's fine. But we're going to sell those slots to better companies that are not failing. So we have this tremendous lens. Let us help you with it. And we're here to make your business better. We want all of our clients to be the best in class in their industry, in their regions. And that's our goal. It makes us better. We win together.
I loved it when you said, I want every AltaVista customer to be the best branded and most well-known industry in their city, right? That was, I thought, a great line that I wrote down that you shared one time. I was saying, hey, what can we do for you? That's what I want to do for you. So
I go back to our probably single most successful client, and I won't name names, and they're actually relatively small on a dollar value with AltaVista. They're a large company. They are so well branded. I look at their website and I look at what they're doing in the community and with BOMA and IRM and ICSC, and they're at everything. And I don't want to talk about the quantity because I hate quantity, but they slay it. They absolutely slay it. And, I can't stress to our clients, you have to be integrated in your approach. You can't just pick a new region and say, oh, I'm going to go into Grand Rapids. I'm in Detroit or I'm in Chicago and I'm going to go into Grand Rapids with no branding, right? Or I'm in Houston. I'm going to go up to Dallas and just pop some emails up there. You have no brand up there. It's going to be harder than somebody that's in that space already branded, and that, a touch might be they see your truck riding down the highway. That's a real touch. And at McLaughlin Electric, I think everybody that ever called in said, I saw your trucks on the road. So that's a touch. If you don't have your trucks on the road, they can't see it. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's all integrated.
Cool. Well, I think that's a great, great end to this episode. Looking forward to having Todd on to talk culture. And, thank you everybody for tuning in to listen to another episode of the AltaVista Angle.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.